Imagine this, you're thrown out by your own father, the man who should protect you, the man you trusted above all others. Now, imagine that you're carrying the secret of a billionaire's child, a secret that could tear your life apart. What would you do when everything you thought you knew about love, family, and trust was turned upside down in the blink of an eye? This is my story. A story of betrayal, secrets, and an unimaginable twist that no one saw coming. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 25, trying to make my way in the world, figuring out what I want from life. I grew up in a small town with my father, Richard Carter, a man who meant everything to me. He was the pillar of our family, the kind of guy everyone respected. He worked hard, always looked out for me, and I was his world. At least I thought I was. That all changed the day he kicked me out. I can still hear his voice ringing in my ears. "You've embarrassed me enough, Emily. Get out and never come back." I didn't understand. How had I gone from being his pride and joy to being nothing in his eyes? It started with a man, his name was Ryan. Ryan wasn't like the guys I was used to. He was charming, full of ambition, and had an aura that made me feel like I was the only woman in the room. We had a whirlwind romance that I didn't think would lead to anything serious. But I was wrong. That mistake, the one that cost me everything, was the one thing my father could never forgive. The argument between me and my father didn't start out as anything big. It was just one of those stupid fights that couples have over something trivial. But when my father found out about Ryan, his anger flared. "You're better than this, Emily. You deserve so much more than him." But it wasn't just about Ryan. The truth was, my father had always been protective of me, maybe too protective. He didn't want me to get involved with someone who wasn't part of our world, someone who didn't meet his standards. But the real shock came when I found out I was pregnant. I can still hear my father's words. "I don't care who the father is. Get out of my house. You're no daughter of mine anymore." It was like the ground was pulled out from under me. I had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. It wasn't a simple situation. I found out I was pregnant a few weeks after my father kicked me out. At first I thought it was just a scare, a mistake. But the pregnancy test didn't lie. I tried to reach Ryan, hoping he could help me make sense of this, but all I got was silence. My calls went unanswered and my texts were ignored. My world was falling apart and I had no one. I was completely alone. The more I tried to figure things out, the more I realized Ryan wasn't just any man. He was hiding something, and I wasn't the only one who had fallen for his charm. Ryan wasn't like the other guys I dated. There was something about him, something magnetic. I met him at a charity event my father had dragged me to. He stood out from the crowd, his smile so genuine, yet his eyes held secrets. He wasn't the typical rich kid I'd been warned about, though. He seemed humble, grounded, at least that's what I thought. We spent the evening talking, laughing, and before I knew it, we were wrapped up in a whirlwind romance. I didn't ask much about his past. I didn't need to know. He made me feel special, like I was the only woman who mattered. But what I didn't know was that Ryan wasn't just some charming guy from a good family. He was the son of one of the wealthiest men in the city, a man whose name was synonymous with power. I had no idea that the guy I'd fallen for had a life I could never be a part of. The worst part came when I found out the truth about Ryan. He wasn't just some rich kid playing games. He was the son of a billionaire. And not only that, he didn't want to be tied down to me or my pregnancy. I wasn't just another girl to him. I was a complication. What was I going to do now? I was carrying his child, and he was nowhere to be found. And that was only the beginning. I never imagined that the man who had swept me off my feet, the one who had made me feel seen and special, was hiding something so huge. Ryan wasn't just any guy. I'd learned that the hard way. I'd spent weeks wondering where he had gone, why he'd gone silent after I told him about the pregnancy. He was the first person I wanted to turn to, but I couldn't even get a hold of him. That was when I started digging. And I found out things about him that I wasn't ready to hear. Ryan was the son of one of the wealthiest families in the city, someone whose name was spoken with respect, almost reverence. His father, Maxwell Pierce, owned a business empire spanning multiple industries. They weren't just rich, they were untouchable. How could I have been so blind? It explains so much. The expensive dinners, the private jets, the aura of wealth I had never questioned. Ryan had lived a life far different from mine, and I had unknowingly stepped into a world I wasn't prepared for. I thought back to the times when we were together. He had never once mentioned his family, his connections, or his wealth. He'd kept his life private, and I had respected that. But now it made sense. He hadn't told me because he didn't want to get attached. He didn't want anything real with me. To him, I was just another fleeting moment. But now I was carrying his child. And the reality of that truth hit harder than anything my father had ever said to me. I needed answers. I couldn't go on wondering if Ryan would just keep pretending I didn't exist. So, I did what I should have done from the start. I went to him. I found out where he was staying, a high-end apartment in one of the city's most exclusive buildings. The kind of place that looked like something out of a magazine. When I showed up, I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I definitely wasn't expecting him to look so unfazed. Ryan opened the door, his face as unreadable as it had been the night we first met. When he saw me standing there, he didn't seem surprised. In fact, he barely looked at me. "Emily," he said with a detached tone, "what are you doing here?" I couldn't hold it in anymore. I stepped forward, feeling the weight of the pregnancy pressing down on me, the truth of it all threatening to consume me. "You don't get to ignore me, Ryan. You don't get to walk away from this. You've ruined my life, and I need you to face what you've done." He didn't react right away. Instead, he ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mixture of irritation and discomfort. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered as though I wasn't standing right there. "Did you think I would just disappear? Did you think I would go away quietly?" I shouted. The anger, the betrayal, all of it bubbled to the surface. "I'm pregnant, Ryan. With your child. You can't just pretend this doesn't exist." He sighed, his posture stiffening. "I never wanted this. It was supposed to be a fling, Emily. A casual thing. I didn't sign up for this." I felt like I had been slapped across the face. "A fling?" I whispered, shocked by his words. "You don't get to call it that. You don't get to treat me like some cheap thrill." Ryan finally looked at me, his eyes cold, calculating. "I'm not going to marry you, Emily. That's not how this works. My family would never accept it." I froze. "So, you're just going to walk away from your responsibilities? From me? From our child?" "I'm sorry," he said, though there was no trace of sincerity in his voice. "But I can't. My life doesn't work like this." I felt my heart shatter in that moment. He didn't just reject me, he rejected everything. The future we could have had. The family we were about to build. All of it was gone. As if things weren't complicated enough, the more I looked into Ryan's life, the more I realized how impossible it would be to break through his world. His family had control over everything, his career, his choices, even his personal life. Ryan wasn't just a rich kid, he was the heir to a legacy that stretched back generations. That reality hit me hard. His family's expectations were not just about wealth and status. They had a specific picture of who Ryan should marry, what his life should look like. And it wasn't me. Ryan's refusal to marry me wasn't just about not wanting to take responsibility. It was about the pressure he was under to follow the script his family had laid out for him. And the worst part? I could never be part of that script. I wasn't rich enough, powerful enough. I wasn't who they had planned for him to be with. I realized that even if I wanted to fight for my future with Ryan, it wouldn't matter. His family had the final say. I felt completely lost. I had no one left. My father had kicked me out, Ryan had turned his back on me, and I was now a pregnant woman with no place to turn. That was when I found someone who would change everything. Her name was Sarah. She was a friend of a friend, someone I met at a support group for women in similar situations. Sarah wasn't wealthy or influential, but she was fierce. She'd been through things I couldn't even imagine, and yet, here she was, helping me pick up the pieces of my shattered life. "I know it feels like the world's against you," Sarah said one night, sitting across from me at a small cafe. "But you have to keep fighting. You have to take control of your life." Her words stuck with me. For the first time since everything fell apart, I started to think that maybe, just maybe, I had the power to take my life back. I wasn't just some girl who had been tossed aside. I was Emily Carter. And I wasn't going down without a fight. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I had to make a choice. Was I going to sit back and let Ryan's rejection define my future? Was I going to let my father's anger dictate my life? No, I couldn't do that. I had a child to think about now. I had a future to fight for. So I made a decision. I was going to take control. I was going to fight for my child. For me. And maybe, just maybe, I would show Ryan and his family that I wasn't someone to be dismissed. As I walked away from that cafe, a sense of determination filled me. I didn't know exactly what would happen next, but I knew one thing. Things were about to change. I had a plan, and I wasn't going to let anyone stand in my way. Ryan and his family weren't ready for what was coming. I woke up that morning feeling different. There was a fire inside me that I hadn't felt before. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't weighed down by self-pity. I wasn't broken. I wasn't defeated. I was ready to fight. I thought back to Sarah's words, "Take control." They echoed in my mind as I prepared to face the consequences of my decision. I wasn't going to let Ryan's rejection define me. I wasn't going to be just some girl he'd forgotten about. I called a lawyer, someone who had worked with high-profile cases before. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew I needed someone who could help me navigate the complicated world I had been thrown into. The lawyer's office was sleek and intimidating, but it was exactly what I needed. "Miss Carter," the lawyer greeted me, "I understand your situation. You have legal rights as the mother of Ryan Pierce's child. It's time we take action." I felt a sense of relief wash over me. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I had a plan. I wasn't helpless anymore. I was going to fight for my future and my baby. The next day, I went to Ryan's apartment again. This time, I wasn't the scared, vulnerable woman he had turned away. I was strong, determined, and ready to confront him about everything. When Ryan opened the door, his face faltered for a moment. He could tell something was different about me. "What is it now, Emily?" he asked, his tone guarded. "I'm not leaving this time until we talk," I said firmly. "You don't get to just walk away from me and our child." Ryan took a step back, eyes narrowing. "What do you want from me, Emily?" "I've already told you this isn't going to happen." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm not asking for your pity, Ryan. I'm not even asking for you to marry me. What I want is for you to step up. You're going to be a father. Whether you like it or not, you're responsible for this child." His eyes flickered with something I hadn't seen before, guilt. For the first time, I saw a crack in his mask. He wasn't as cold as he had been. He didn't know how to handle the responsibility, but there was no way out now. "I don't know how to do this, Emily," he admitted, his voice shaking slightly. "I don't know how to be the person you want me to be." "You don't have to be perfect," I replied. "You just have to be there. For the baby. For yourself. And for me if you want to be." I could see the internal struggle on his face. Ryan wasn't the villain I'd painted him to be. He was scared. And maybe, just maybe, he was beginning to realize that this wasn't something he could run away from anymore. Of course, the moment I thought I had a handle on things, everything fell apart again. When Ryan finally told his family about the pregnancy, it wasn't the happy moment I had hoped for. His father, Maxwell Pierce, was livid. "How could you let this happen?" Maxwell shouted. "You're the heir to a legacy. You can't just throw it all away on some girl you've barely known." Ryan stood his ground, though, a far cry from the man he had been when we first met. "I'm not throwing it away, Dad. This is my child. My responsibility." His mother, a woman I'd always thought of as graceful and poised, looked at me with disdain. "You really think we're going to let you into our world? A woman like you without anything to offer?" Her words stung more than I cared to admit, but I wasn't going to back down now. Not after everything I'd been through. I had Ryan's child growing inside me, and I would be damned if I let his family's judgment tear us apart. Ryan's resolve faltered for a moment, but then he took my hand. "This is happening. "I don't care what you think," he said, his voice steady. "I'm going to be there for Emily and our baby." It was the first time Ryan had stood up to his family. And though I knew it wouldn't be easy, I believed in him now. I believed that maybe, just maybe, he could change. After weeks of tension, lawyer meetings, and arguments with his family, Ryan and I found a rhythm. It wasn't perfect and it didn't happen overnight, but we were slowly building something together. Ryan took responsibility. He supported me through the pregnancy, attending doctor's appointments and helping me prepare for the baby. His family, though cold at first, eventually came around. Maxwell Pierce never fully accepted me, but he came to terms with the reality that his son had made his choice. And Ryan? Well, Ryan became the father he didn't think he could be. He wasn't the perfect man I'd imagined, but he was present. He was learning, and that was enough for me. We had a long road ahead of us, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. This story wasn't just about love, betrayal, or a billionaire's son. It was about resilience. About standing up for what's right even when the world tells you to back down. About fighting for yourself when everyone expects you to fail. I had been kicked out, rejected, abandoned. But I had come back. I had found my strength. And I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is keep moving forward no matter how many times you're knocked down. This journey isn't over yet, and neither is mine. If you've ever faced a tough situation and fought through it, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.